Hey folks, it's Nate. It's time I got back to the drawing board, and today we're looking at another indie comic project, this one from Art Theibert called Chrono Mechanics Retrofit. This is a re-release of an old project that Art Theibert worked on, and it's an interesting story. The writing and art is by Art Theibert with co-writer Pamela Theibert, which I presume is Art's wife, could also be his sister. I could look that up somewhere, but I just don't know off the top of my head. All in all, this is a good quality book. It's got nice binding. The cover stock is really, really good. It feels great in the hand. And the interior pages, while not as stiff as the cover stock, feel just as good. So this is a great quality physical product, and it was a real joy to flip through and read and just feel it in the hand. This is like a high quality magazine, and in a lot of ways for the kind of comic it is, which is an American full color comic, that is probably the best way to consume it. I don't have a problem with newsprint. I actually kind of like newsprint. It has a charm to it. But in terms of a book that's going to stick around a long time and that you can read over and over again, this is definitely top quality. So the art is, I'm not really familiar with Art Theibert, so I don't know how typical this is for him. But it is on the cartoony side. I was most reminded actually of kind of Hanna-Barbera as I was looking at this. But it's a very good quality. It's got expressive faces, really clean line work, a lot of detail where it needs it, not a lot of detail where it doesn't. And personally, I like that. It draws the eye naturally to where the emphasis is. The panel layouts are great. Just look at this page. It's got good white space, and all the dialogue can kind of fall, most of the dialogue can kind of fall into there. It's got a great panel layout that just draws the eye naturally through the action. And some of that is probably the way the lettering is laid out, and that helps your eye know where to go as well. But all in all, art is fantastic. However, I know the style isn't quite for everyone because it is that kind of cartoony, again, almost a Hanna-Barbera or 80s animation kind of style of art. And if that bothers you, maybe this isn't your book. I know Art Theibert has black and white, which I believe is in a more realistic style. It's a spy story, where this is more of a tongue-in-cheek comedy. I actually haven't read black and white, so I actually can't say how tongue-in-cheek, how serious, or how slapstick that story is. But this is a fairly slapstick, humorous kind of a story, and I think the art really fits it. So let's talk about the story itself. The premise is that time is an actual machine, and it breaks down and people have to go out and fix it. And when people on the repair teams come up short, when they get injured or in this case die, they are just replaced last minute from people who are somehow judged fit. There's a computer that does all this, and we just take the story's word that that's how it works. And I really don't have a problem with that. Again, it's kind of a slapstick, tongue-in-cheek story, and it has a great sci-fi premise. We have to keep time working correctly, and if people aren't working on the mechanics of time properly, then all kinds of things go wrong. The story is about a team that loses its fourth man, and they have to, the computer pulls in this Doug guy from somewhere in the time stream, actually the 70s. He's a rocker, and he gets pulled in to be the fourth man on this team. And he works with an Italian Renaissance man, Caravaggio. He works with a caveman named Oot, and he works with an octopus alien named Zin. And these are a wacky bunch of characters, and they are, much as the art style, they are very much caricatures. There's not a lot of, this isn't a long story. Chrono Mechanics is self-contained, which I appreciate, but the characters are not as well developed as some you might see over the course of a longer story. They are kind of thin, but they do quite well for the length of the story. So Caravaggio is quite arrogant, and he's kind of stuck up and confident in himself. Oot is a brute, and he just, he thinks with his muscles, and he doesn't really look very far ahead. And Zin is kind of the stuck-up spiritualist, and Doug is, this rocker who has a huge fan base and is used to being worshipped and adored. And if I had one gripe about the characters, it would be that they are all, in their own way, very overconfident and self-assured. And I don't have problems with characters being confident and self-assured, especially if they have a lot of skills to back it up, which all of these characters do. My real problem is that all of them have this exact same character trait, and that kind of robs the team of some of its dynamics. And then you add in the fact they have these power suits that they transform into, and give them the strength and some of the know-how they need to do their work. And it starts to feel kind of samey. I mean, they all look the same. They all have one of their strong defining characteristics in common. It's not ideal, in my humble opinion. But at the same time, Chrono Mechanics is more about the story, the plot, the events than it is about the characters. And so I can forgive this for the most part. Again, my biggest problem here is that when they're in the suits, they all look very similar. And really, there's only colorations to tell them apart. That's not as big a deal with like Zin, who has blue skin, and Doug, who has red hair. But I sometimes, when I was looking at Caravaggio and Oot in profile when they were transformed, I couldn't immediately tell which one I was looking at. And that's kind of a minor nitpick, but it is important. There's, a lot of action, and those two are together for most of the story, all of the story, really. They're not always in their suits, so it's a lot easier to tell them apart when they're not, because Caravaggio is a small person and Oot is not. But these are issues that the story has, and it largely makes up for them by just throwing the events of the plot at you very quickly and keeping the pace moving, which is not bad. That is definitely a storytelling technique to keep people's attention away from the things your story just doesn't have time to do. And honestly, I don't think this story has time to do a whole lot with its characters and get through the story it wants to tell in the pages available. So I don't hold that too strongly against it, but I know there are people who are going to read this and they're not going to like the fact that the characters are a little thin. So in a lot of ways, this is a story about a misfit trying to fit in, and we see Doug falling through the time stream, and he goes to some parallel realities and meets a different version of himself, while the rest of the crew tries to home in on the place where the time breakdown is. They eventually find it, and they work on fixing it. Meanwhile, Doug gets his suit hooked up, and things eventually work out. It's a rollicking good adventure time. It is an interesting case study in how adventure plots, especially pulp adventure plots, which is what this is, use excitement and pacing to make up for some of their other failings. And Chrono Mechanics, I think, definitely does that. It's fun to see all the different things that happen. It's fun to see the time travel. It's fun to see the rival time fix-it company. And it's fun to see all the ideas and the inventive machines and other things that are happening. If I had one gripe, it's that like Doug's defining character trait is his good luck. His defining skill is his good luck. He's also a musician, of course. He had a huge fan base in the 70s, but that's not really part of what he contributes to the team, and that kind of disappointed me. I would have liked to see that be part of Doug's contribution, rather than his, just freakish good luck. But on the whole, it's a good story. It's a fun story. It has mind-controlled T-Rexes and squid aliens and power suits, and I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed reading it. So I would recommend it to you if you're a fan of action-driven stories or adventure-driven stories, and you can really lose yourself in that, and you don't stop to dissect characters too much. If you really want to stop and dissect characters and revel in them along with your adventure and whatnot, Chrono Mechanics, it's not an ongoing series. It's a one-and-done kind of thing, so it's probably not going to scratch your itch too well. That's unfortunate because I think Art could have kept working on this and made something really really special in time. Because he definitely has writing chops and he understands how to characterize his characters in art and in dialogue very quickly. And I think if he had kept going with this, there would have been something really, really cool to see. But what we got is not bad. Let's talk a little bit about the other stuff that came because I really I like this. There's stuff here that I was expecting and stuff that I wasn't expecting. So first of all, we have some trading cards. So we have one for each of the characters, and we have one that's the cover, and then we have this one, which is just sort of another pinup of the Chrono Mechanics, and they all have this nice Chrono Mechanics logo on the back, and they tell you the character and who did them, or they just have the retrofit there. So that's neat. You have a patch. This is the patch that the characters wear on their uniforms. That's pretty cool. Again, I like patches, even though I have nothing to put them on. I like having them. They're fun to look at. They're fun to think about how you would arrange them if you did have something to put on. Anyway, I just like collecting patches, and I'm really happy to have that one. There's also a button that is much the same as the patch except black and white. And this is really nifty because, again, I don't have anything to put patches on, but this would be, pretty easy to clip on something and just wear for a little bit, and then if you got tired of it, you could take it off, which is something that's not easy to do with patches, and I really like that as well. Finally, we have the lucky guitar pick. Whoopsie. Not so lucky, apparently, because I dropped it. So it's got Doug and his guitar on it, and as Doug is, his guitar pick is kind of a minor plot point it's his lucky pick. Whether it's actually a part of his good luck, as we see in the story or not, is kind of left up to the imagination. Wow, I really can't hold on to this at all. I don't play guitar, so I'm not used to holding on to one of these. But this is cool. It's a really great physical tie-in to the story, and I think including this was a stroke of genius because I look at it and I just remember several parts of the story, and that is, I think, something that a lot of the add-ons and stretch goals that comic campaigns come with don't have to them, that this really does. So credit where it's due. This was a stroke of genius. All in all, Chrono Mechanics, pretty good deal for the money, especially if you play guitar and you like novelty guitar picks or something like that. Or if you just like patches, it's a great patch. I wanna go back to this patch because it's huge. Like most of the patches are about as big as the center part, and then we have the gear around it. Okay, most people are probably not a patch nerds like I am, but they're there. It's pretty good add-ons for the money. And all in all, it's a pretty good campaign. Again, I would have liked it if we had known there was more Chrono Mechanics coming, but I don't believe there is, and what we got is pretty good. So if you're into those adventure stories, check it out. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, there's a like button and subscribe button down below. You can use them as you see fit, and I'll talk to you later.